The moment you cross $10,000 in savings, something shifts inside you that nobody ever warned you about. It is not just about the number. It is not just about seeing a comma in your bank account for the first time. Something deeper changes, something that cannot be undone. And the people who have never felt it, they have absolutely no idea what they are missing. If you're interested in money, finance, or changing your financial future, like this video and subscribe right now, because what you are about to learn can change the way you see money forever. Let me take you back to a moment most people know all too well. It is the middle of the month. Your rent just hit. Your phone bill is due. You check your account balance, and there's just enough to make it to payday, if nothing unexpected happens. You tell yourself you will start saving next month. Next month, when things calm down. Next month, when you get that raise. But next month comes and goes, and the account is still sitting at zero. And the worst part? You do not even know how it happened. The money just disappeared. That feeling, that hollow, anxious feeling of watching money vanish before you even get to breathe, is something millions of people live with every single day. Not because they are lazy, not because they are irresponsible, but because nobody ever sat them down and explained what money actually does to your life when you finally start keeping some of it. And I mean really keeping it, building it, watching it grow past a number that used to feel impossible. $10,000. For some people, that sounds like nothing. For others, it sounds like a dream. But here is what almost nobody tells you. It is not the money itself that changes your life. It is what happens to you mentally, emotionally, and practically once you get there. And I am going to walk you through every single layer of that transformation today. But before I do, I want to be clear about something. This is not a video about getting rich quick. This is not about crypto hacks or stock market secrets or some app that makes money while you sleep. This is about something far more powerful than any of that. This is about what happens to a real person, a normal working person, when they finally break through the invisible wall that has been holding them back their entire life. And that wall has a very specific height, $10,000. Let us start with a person I will call Marcus. Marcus is 26 years old. He works a regular job, brings home about $2,800 a month after taxes, and lives in a mid-sized city where rent takes up almost half of that. He is not reckless with money. He does not blow his paycheck at the casino. He just never has anything left. Sound familiar? Marcus is not a story I invented. Marcus is a version of a story I have heard hundreds of times, and maybe it is a version of your story too. For 3 years, Marcus tried to save. He would set aside $200 here, $150 there, but then the car needed a repair, or his sister needed help, or the electricity bill spiked in the summer. Every time he built something up, life knocked it back down. And slowly, without him even realizing it, Marcus started to believe something dangerous. He started to believe that saving was just not possible for someone like him. That financial stability was for other people. People with better jobs, better families, better luck. And this is where most people fail without even realizing it. Not at the bank, not with their budget, but in their mind. The moment you decide that saving is impossible, you stop looking for ways to make it possible. You stop noticing the small leaks in your spending. You stop asking whether you actually need that subscription or that takeout or that impulse purchase online at midnight. The mind gives up before the wallet ever gets the chance. But something happened to Marcus, and what happened next changed everything. His company offered a small bonus. Not huge, just $800. And instead of doing what he always did, instead of letting it dissolve into the normal flow of expenses, he made one decision. He opened a separate savings account, one that was harder to access, one that he did not connect to his debit card, and he put that $800 in and left it there. That was it. That was the whole move. One small, boring, unglamorous decision. But it planted something, because seeing that $800 sit untouched for 2 weeks did something to Marcus that no financial advice article had ever done. It proved to him that he could do it. Not in theory, not in someone else's story. In his own account, with his own name on it. And that proof became fuel. Here is what the finance world constantly gets wrong. They obsess over interest rates and investment vehicles and tax-advantaged accounts. And none of that is bad information. But they skip the most important step. They skip the psychology. They skip the fact that before your money can grow, your belief about money has to grow first. And the first $10,000 is not really about building wealth. It is about building the version of yourself who is capable of building wealth. Those are two very different things. Most people never realize this part. They think the hard part is the math. It is not. The hard part is the identity shift. The moment you start thinking of yourself as someone who saves, everything begins to change. The way you look at a menu at a restaurant, the way you feel about an impulse purchase, the way you respond when a friend says, just put it on your card. Your identity starts making decisions before your brain even consciously thinks about them. And that identity, it does not fully click until you have real proof sitting in your account. Now let us talk about what $10,000 actually does to your practical life, because this is where things get genuinely interesting. The first thing it does is remove the biggest threat to your financial life. And no, it is not your spending habits or your income level. The biggest threat to most people's financial life is emergency, the unexpected, the transmission that dies, the hospital bill that arrives with no warning, the job that disappears during a layoff you never saw coming. These things do not just hurt you financially. They destroy years of progress in a single moment, and then they force you into debt to recover, which makes the next emergency even more devastating. It is a trap with no exit ramp, unless you build one yourself. $10,000 is that exit ramp. Not a perfect one, not a luxurious one, but one that exists. And once it exists, everything you do financially becomes less fragile. You stop making panic decisions. You stop taking on bad debt because you had no other choice. You stop losing months of financial progress every time life throws something unexpected at you. I know that sounds simple, but I want you to really sit with it for a second, because the absence of that safety net is what keeps more people financially stuck than almost any other single factor. But here is the uncomfortable truth. Most people who are living paycheck to paycheck are not one bad decision away from poverty. They are one emergency away. And the difference between those two things is enormous. A bad decision you can learn from. An emergency? An emergency does not care whether you have learned your lesson. It just arrives. Marcus hit $10,000 14 months after that $800 bonus. He did not get rich. He did not make some brilliant investment. He just kept the account separate, automated a small transfer every payday, and stopped treating savings like money he could borrow from himself whenever things got tight. 14 months, and when he crossed that threshold, something happened that he was not prepared for. He stopped being afraid of his phone. Now, that might sound like a strange thing to say, but if you have ever lived with financial anxiety, you know exactly what I mean. The call from an unknown number that might be a collections agency, the email from your landlord, the ping of a bank notification. When your account is always close to zero, every one of those moments carries a tiny jolt of fear, a tiny reminder that you are one bad day away from a real problem. Marcus had been living with that low-level fear for so long that he had stopped noticing it. It was just the background noise of his life. Until it was gone, and that is the second thing $10,000 does to your life that nobody puts in the headline of any financial article. It takes away a fear you forgot you were carrying. It gives you a kind of quiet confidence that has nothing to do with arrogance and everything to do with knowing that if something goes wrong, you can handle it. Not perfectly, not without stress, but you can handle it. That feeling, that specific feeling, is worth more than people realize until they have it. I will explain what comes after that feeling in a moment. But first, you need to understand something deeper about the way money and fear are connected, because most people have it completely backwards. Most people believe that they will feel financially safe when they earn more money. They are waiting for the raise, the promotion, the side hustle that finally takes off, and so they put their financial peace of mind on hold, waiting for an income event that may or may not come. But the people who have actually crossed the $10,000 threshold know a different truth. Financial peace does not come from income. It comes from margin. Margin is the gap between what you earn and what you spend. And you can have a huge income with zero margin, which means you feel just as anxious and fragile as someone earning half as much. Or you can have a modest income with growing margin, and slowly, month by month, you start to breathe easier. The $10,000 is not the finish line. It is proof that margin is possible for you. And once you know it is possible, you stop waiting for your income to save you, and you start building the margin yourself. That shift from passive waiting to active building is one of the most powerful transformations a person can make. And it almost always happens somewhere around that $10,000 mark. Now, here is where the story takes a turn that most people do not see coming. Because saving $10,000 does not just change how you feel, it changes what becomes possible. This is the part that genuinely separates the people who keep going from the people who plateau. When Marcus had zero savings, every financial opportunity that came his way passed him right by. A friend told him about a small local business looking for investors. Just a few $1,000s. Marcus did not have it. A coworker mentioned a certification course that could move Marcus into a higher paying role. It cost $100. Marcus could not pull that money together without wrecking his budget. An apartment in a better neighborhood, closer to work, cheaper in the long run because of what he would save on transportation. The deposit was $1,500. Marcus could not swing it. Do you see what is happening there? Every single one of those was an opportunity that could have improved Marcus's life. And every single one of them required a small amount of capital that Marcus did not have. So they all passed him by. And they passed him by not because he was unlucky or because the world was unfair. They passed him by because he was not financially ready. And here is the brutal part. Those kinds of opportunities do not pause and wait for you. They move on to the next person who is ready. $10,000 changes that. Not because $10,000 is some magic investment amount, but because it puts you in a position where, when an opportunity shows up, you have options. You can say yes to the course, you can make the deposit, you can take the calculated risk that could open a new door. You are no longer standing outside the game, watching everyone else play. You have a seat at the table. And nobody talks about this part. The way that financial readiness creates access to opportunities that are completely invisible to people who are not ready for them. It is like a door that only opens from one side. You cannot see it exists until you are in a position to open it. Let me give you another angle on this, because I want you to understand the full scope of what we are talking about. Think about two people, same age, same job, same income, same city. One of them has $10,000 in savings. The other has $400 in savings and $3,000 in credit card debt. Same income, remember? But those two people are not living the same life. They are not experiencing the same reality. The person with the savings can negotiate at work. They can say no to a bad project. They can leave a toxic job because they have runway. They have time to find something better. The person with the debt cannot do any of that. Every financial decision they make is made under pressure because there is no cushion. And decisions made under pressure are almost never good decisions. They are survival decisions, and survival decisions keep you in survival mode. The savings give you leverage over your time, leverage over your choices, leverage over the fear that drives bad decisions. And that leverage compounds over time in ways that are almost impossible to fully explain to someone who has not experienced it. But here's what I can tell you. Once you feel it, you understand why people who have money seem to accumulate more of it, and people who do not seem to fall further behind. It is not luck. It is not some unfair cosmic rule. It is leverage, and you build leverage one saved dollar at a time. But here's something I need to say that most financial videos skip entirely, because it is uncomfortable and most creators do not want to risk losing viewers with an inconvenient truth. Getting to $10,000 is going to cost you something. Not just money, time, comfort, social moments. There will be a trip you do not take, a dinner you skip, a purchase you put back on the shelf, a version of yourself that you present to the world that is slightly less flashy, slightly less spontaneous, slightly less in the moment. And in a world that is constantly screaming at you to live your best life right now, to treat yourself, to experience everything immediately, that resistance is genuinely hard. Harder than any budgeting spreadsheet, harder than any savings calculator. Because the real enemy of financial progress is not ignorance, it is culture. It is the culture of spending as identity. The idea that what you wear, what you drive, where you eat, what phone you carry, that these things define your value as a person. And that culture is loud, it is everywhere, and it is extremely good at making you feel like delayed gratification is the same thing as missing out on life. But here's the thing. Every person I have ever spoken to who crossed that threshold said the same thing. They said the things they gave up during the journey, the dinners, the trips, the gadgets, none of them remember those things. None of them look back and grieve those purchases. But they all remember the moment they crossed $10,000. They all remember what that number felt like when they saw it, and they all describe it the same way. They describe it as feeling like they finally showed up for themselves, like they finally kept a promise they had been breaking their whole life. That is not a small thing, that is everything. Now, let us talk about what happens after $10,000, because this is where the journey gets really interesting, and this is the part most people have not thought about. Once you have $10,000 saved, the temptation is enormous to spend it. And I do not mean spend it irresponsibly. I mean spend it on something that feels justified. A better car, a vacation you have been planning for years, a new version of something you currently have that still works. The mind is incredibly creative at building justifications for spending money when the money is finally there. And this is the final test. This is where the identity you built on the journey either holds or breaks. The people who protect that $10,000 and keep building discover something extraordinary. They discover that money starts to feel different above that threshold. Below it, every dollar feels scarce. Every purchase feels like a trade-off. Every bill feels like an attack, but above it, something shifts. You start thinking in terms of growth instead of survival. You start asking not, can I afford this? But does this move me forward? You start seeing money not as something that happens to you, but as something you are directing. That shift in relationship with money, from victim to author, is the real prize. And it lives on the other side of $10,000. Here is something Marcus told me that I have never forgotten. He said, before I saved $10,000, I thought rich people were just lucky. After I saved $10,000, I realized they just learned to think differently first. That one sentence. That is it. That is the whole thing. Because the habits that get you to $10,000, the automation, the margin building, the identity shift, the ability to delay gratification, Those exact habits, applied with more income over more time, are what build real wealth. Not some exotic investment strategy, not some secret the elite are hiding. The same habits, same principles, more time. The $10,000 is not the destination, it is the training ground. It is where you develop the financial muscles that everything else in your life will eventually run on. And here's what I want you to understand about urgency. Because this is important, and I do not want to gloss over it. Every month that passes where you are not building toward that number is a month of compounding that you will never get back. Every emergency that hits you while your savings account is at zero forces you to start over, sometimes deeper in debt than where you started. Every opportunity that passes because you were not financially ready is an opportunity that went to someone else. Time is the one resource that does not give refunds. And the most expensive financial mistake most people make is not overspending on something big. It is quietly losing month after month to inaction, while telling themselves they will start next month. Next month is the most expensive word in personal finance, and almost nobody counts its true cost. So let me bring this back to you. Right now, not Marcus, not some hypothetical person. You, watching this video, where are you? Are you at zero, feeling like saving is impossible for someone in your situation? Are you somewhere in the middle, making progress, but not sure if it will ever really add up? Or are you close, maybe closer than you think, and you just needed something to make it feel real? Wherever you are, I want you to understand this. The transformation I have been describing, the fear that disappears, the opportunities that open, the identity that shifts, the leverage that builds, none of it requires a special income. None of it requires a perfect financial background. None of it requires you to be some kind of money genius. It requires one thing: consistency applied over time toward a specific, meaningful number. That is it. One small transfer, automated, protected, left alone to grow, repeated more times than it feels exciting, until one day you look at your account and the number that used to feel impossible is just sitting there, quietly proving that you did it. And that proof will change you in ways that no article, no video, no podcast, no book ever could. Because it will not be information. It will be experience. And experience is the only thing that actually rewires the way you think about money. Here's the final thing I want to leave you with, and I want you to really hear this. Most people will spend their entire life waiting for a financial miracle, a windfall, an inheritance, a moment when the universe finally makes things easy. And while they wait, they stay exactly where they are, anxious, fragile, one emergency away from chaos, missing opportunities they cannot even see, carrying a fear they have forgotten is even there. The $10,000 is not a miracle. It is a decision. It is the decision to stop waiting and start building. It is the decision to believe, even when it is hard, even when progress is slow, even when life keeps testing you, that you are someone who keeps going, that you are someone who shows up for themselves, that you are someone who, 14 months from now, looks at a number on a screen and finally exhales. Every person who has ever crossed that line made that decision before they crossed it, not after, before. They decided who they were going to be, and then they acted like that person until the account proved them right. That decision is available to you today, not next month, not when your income goes up, not when things calm down, today, with whatever you have, with whatever margin exists in your current life, even if it feels microscopic, because the first transfer is not about the amount, it is about the statement, and the statement is, I am the kind of person who builds something. Be that person. Starting today. If you learned something new today, make sure to subscribe to Money Insights and like this video. More powerful financial truths are coming next.